Welcome to Deep Thought. Raise your level of consciousness. Now, I'm gonna tell you what. I'll talk about different things on this channel, but I've always said I want you to think. And I want you to go beyond even thinking, just raising your level of consciousness, being awake. Because let's just be real, most people are sleeping out here. Most people are sleeping. Most people are following. Most people are part of a herd. It might sound mean to say that, but I have to be real, seriously. And all the theys do is put up fences. They put up fences, they put up barriers so the herd won't go too far. The herd will stay within. The herd will wear certain clothes, support certain political candidates, do different things. You know, I remember that TV show, Babylon 5, science fiction show back in the 90s. And I remember the star of the show, the main character, Captain Sheridan, he met this guy who was from Earth. And he was like, who are you? He asked the guy from Earth, and the guy from Earth was with the bad guys. And he was like, well, who decides how high the skirt hems will be? Who decides? He was talking about all this stuff. He said, I'm with them. That's why I say theys anyway. But here's the thing. Every time that you looking at not just my stuff, but anybody's stuff, think about it. Raise your level of consciousness. That's the one thing everybody should do. Don't get to a point in life that you just stop learning. Like one of the saddest things that I've heard in life is that many people don't read any books once they get out of high school, which means they probably weren't reading them then. But they not paying attention. And even when they call themselves watching the news, let's be real. If you got a certain level of consciousness, you can see that the news is nothing but propaganda. It depends on which propaganda you want to take, which side of the aisle you want to take it from, whether you want to take it from a more leftist thing or a more right thing. Whatever the case, it's still propaganda. Now, somebody with a level of consciousness, they will not only see that, they'll take it in, they'll look at it, but then they'll do their own research. And I've talked about that before. That's raising your consciousness. Even when you have different books. Now, I've said before, if you have a bunch of books, don't be afraid of reading something that's going against your consciousness or going against your ideas, because it's getting you to think. If nothing else, it's getting you to see the other side. The legendary philosopher, Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War, he said, if you know yourself and you know your enemy, you need not fear the results of 100 battles. If you know yourself and you know someone who is going against you, you need not fear the results of 100 situations. And there's so many ways you could put that. And all that is if you see from someone else's point of view, you raising your consciousness. Any little thing you can do. I've talked about learning from every single experience. Learning from every single experience. Now, like when I had that pipe burst, I actually learned from that experience. I was like, oh, okay, this is how I approach it next time. I ain't gonna have that again. If I have it again, it won't be through any actions that I do. Because I learned from it, raised my consciousness. Because consciousness is more than just reading a book, but it really is your experience. It really is your experience. You can raise your consciousness by driving. By driving. You know, if you like riding your brakes a certain way, you're gonna wear out your brakes faster. You know, if you driving in certain areas or driving a certain speed, you might get the attention of the police. You might run into something. You might do something. You might pay attention. You have to pay attention more. You raising your consciousness then. Like something I hadn't talked about, I actually messed up one of my tires one time because I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't paying attention to the curb. that raised my consciousness to always be paying attention. So no matter what, and I'm talking about my situation. I don't know what your situation could be, but that's something that you always want to do. Everything, pay attention to even little things. Pay attention to even small things. And yeah, that's an important thing. That's an important thing. Like even when I'm like paying attention to the music that y'all will hear in the background, I paid attention. I could have had this on jazz, but I said, nah, Soundscapes works better with this channel. But that was consciousness. That was consciousness. Or even how I have pictures set up around my house on the main floor. That's consciousness. That is consciousness. Indeed, when you have people who are more into metaphysics, you can call it New Age or whatever. Really, when they wearing certain jewels, when they wearing certain clothes, when they doing certain things, they might call it like a more spiritual thing, but really what it is raising their consciousness. If I wear a certain symbol, like there was a time I was being bothered on one of my government jobs. And I purposely wore this spiritual symbol every day. It was a Giyanyami. And some people have seen it, some people have asked about it. But what it did in the symbol Giyanyami means only God. It's an Adinkra symbol from Ghana. And the general meaning of it is fear none but God. And so when I was wearing it, what it did was raise my consciousness. So no matter what hell they were giving me on the job, I wasn't pressed because I had this thing on. I wasn't wearing a necktie, I wore this symbol. They ain't say a goddamn word to me. They just asked me to do my job and whatever. But then I was walking around with a certain level of consciousness. So that's the important thing. That is the important thing. You have to really think about that. Every little thing you do. Like being, like even wearing shoes sometimes. I'm famous for talking about shoes, aren't I? But my consciousness was raised one time I was wearing some hard bottom shoes before I was about to do, an event at this coffee shop. And I was wearing some hard bottom shoes. I was conscious of how I was walking, how I was presenting myself. That was raising my consciousness. Every little thing can raise your consciousness. That's one of the things that you want to pay attention to. That's one of the things you want to pay attention to. You want to always raise your consciousness. That's the main thing on my channel. That's why sometimes I throw out stuff. That's why I don't mind a disagreement as long as it's respectful. And I've had some people disagree with some things, but they were respectful, so I was respectful for them. I would question them more, but I would do so respectfully. Because I want you to think. That's why on many of my videos, I'll say, think on this. It's raising your consciousness. So I want you to think about everything I just said. I want you to raise your consciousness. All right? So think on this. Raise your consciousness. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace and blessings.